Hi everyone. Thanks for joining. This is Tableau in the Wild, a chance where myself, Dan Montgomery, my colleague Carl, I actually don't know how to pronounce your last name.
Nobody does. It's fine, Dan. It's all chin.
Altrin?
Yep.
Okay. My colleague Carl Altrin, we're both active in the Tableau community, starting off in blogging, Twitter. We recently met at the Tableau conference, and what we loved about the Tableau conference was it really gave an opportunity for not just people like us who use Tableau kind of in our free time and are doing cool things, but people who use it as part of their organization, people who use it as part of their day-to-day life to make their lives easier, to make their jobs easier. And so we have this Hangout series that we're starting. This is the very first episode, so forgive us if we fumble and tumble, but we're going to figure it out. But this is such a great opportunity, and we have such a great guest to get things started. So again, my name is Dan Montgomery. I want to pass it off to my colleague, Carl. And Carl, please introduce yourself and introduce our fantastic guest for today.
Cool. So, first of all, a little bit about me. I'm Carl Orchin. You might know me as @DataJediNinja on Twitter. That's where I'm kind of most active, and also run datajedininja.blogspot.co.uk or .com, whichever you fancy. And I'm probably known more for basketball visualization than anything else, which is I find weird, and most people I speak to find weird as well, because I recently found myself in Seattle at the Tableau conference presenting in front of Americans about basketball, and that just feels wrong as a Brit to do that, quite frankly. My background is all finance, so I used to work for a big insurer, then worked for a bank. Now decided to go full-time as a tech consultant, mostly kind of focused on Tableau, but Alteryx as well. And really what Dan and I wanted to do and discuss at the conference was, it's really great hearing about the experiences of other companies that fought this battle. And for me, it was a battle, first of all, because I actually left the insurer due to not really getting the support to take a data visualization tool on and move BI on further. So we thought it would be really useful to kind of talk about that with how people who have taken on Tableau, had some success, or other visualization tools as well, and kind of learn from them and actually learn what is possible and what isn't. And we've all been there, we've all made mistakes, what's worked, what hasn't. So really just understanding that further. And the first person really actually reached out to me off the back of this year's conference that we didn't stumble across each other, which is really annoying, but Catherine Rush from TD Bank. And she remembers me from my presentation with Peter Jilks when we worked for Barclays, when we wore our yellow hard hats, because our tech went so badly wrong twice, when we actually were asked to repeat the talk as well. And strangely, Catherine still wanted to talk to me about what went well. So that teaches us that when things don't go well, it's fine. So I'm going to kind of hand it over to Catherine to talk about what her role is, and then we're just basically going to have an open conversation about how she's found this movement to this kind of new culture of data visualization, how people are adopting it, what some of the resistant points are, and what some of the kind of real benefits that they're feeling, to hopefully help you guys, whether you're in finance or not. And we'll move on to other industries as we go through our Tableau in the Wild series. If you want to be part of it, then reach out to Dan or myself, and we can go from there. So at that point, Catherine, who are you, and what's your day job?
All right. Well, who am I? You introduced yourself actually with your Twitter handle. I don't use Twitter often. I'm at Catherine Rush, and those at the conference might remember me from the one of the big screens on the board. I'm the one who put the bacon comment up there and just about got booted out of the conference. So I do like bacon. That was one of the funny things, but I do love Tableau, actually, and the community, I think, is one of the great things about Tableau, and just, meeting Carl indirectly through the conference, and Dan, just being able to meet you through this, I think, is a really great opportunity. And one of the things that's so great about Tableau is just how you don't have to be in the same industry, but you can really learn from others and get ideas from others, and it's really excellent. So who am I? I'm Catherine Rush. I work at TD Bank. I've actually been in banking since '98. I've been in banking for quite a while in various roles. Started in branches, but have had a lot of analytical roles. And right now I'm managing a team of analysts. So I have 2 risk portfolio analysts, and we do reporting for commercial workout specifically. We actually have 145 desktop users at TD and over 70 in Canada. The desktop users are just in the US, and we have 70 users in Canada. So we're growing quite a bit. From 2 years ago, when I went to that first conference, we had about 12 desktop licenses. So we've grown quite a bit here at TD.
Cool. So I suppose the first question is when did you really start using Tableau, and how did it first get into TD?
We actually, if any of you are familiar with banking, you know there are a lot of mergers and acquisitions that happened, and that's actually how we got Tableau, really. The South Financial Group was using Tableau, and we acquired that bank in 2011, I believe. And that's when it was mid-2012 that we actually got our desktop licenses, some in New Jersey, and then we had a handful in Maine that we got. And I went to the conference, had an excellent experience there, and you know, the users, those 12 desktop users that we had, have just been promoting it. We have a woman, Irina Alexou, who actually presented this year at the conference. She's been a huge advocate for Tableau in our organization and in the Word. Like I said, too, we have now over 145 users in the U.S. and over 70 in Canada. So since 2012, we've just been growing exponentially. And it's a combination of things. It's been just the experience that existing users have had, and how we've been able to streamline our reporting, make our reporting more efficient. We've been able to present different visualizations that we've never presented before. You know, it's in my particular group, we've done a lot of just monthly reporting, tabular reports. There wasn't a lot of visualization historically, and there wasn't a lot of trending. And we actually just had one of the analysts on my team just got a bit of a fire drill a couple days ago. He was asked to create a presentation, or to help out with a presentation, that was going to go to the Chief Risk Officer and the Chief Credit Officer today. And he did an excellent job. He was able to use Tableau to get that data pulled together quickly and efficiently, and it presents a really good picture of what we wanted to report. So it's really just been an excellent tool to incorporate into our bank.
Cool. So you said that visualization wasn't part of what was in TD before, and I've kind of had this experience before, so it'd be interesting to kind of see what was the experience before. Was it quite a lot of just kind of your traditional Excel work that was output into PowerPoint, or did you have other tools? And what did that visualization actually lead to? Was it a different culture, different types of conversations, or what? I suppose I'm interested in that.
Yeah, it was, you know, we did a lot of Excel reporting. We have a lot of users are using Webby business objects to do some reporting as well. But, you know, a lot of the presentations that were going to senior management and the board did have Excel charts and graphs in there. And, you know, they take a lot of time to prepare and distribute. So being able to shift those over to Tableau has just streamlined production, like I said, significantly. And it really has changed the conversation, like you just mentioned. We were able to, within our team in commercial workout, we managed Oreo properties in one of the groups in there, and we were able to create this entire dashboard or workbook of Oreo dashboards, yes, and it just, you know, you review these and people start asking questions. You know, you don't get the same questions as you might get when you just have that tabular report in Excel, and maybe you have a graph, but it might not show all of the trends, and it doesn't allow you to dig into it quite like you can with Tableau. So.
Cool. So what visualization types are you using? Because this is one question I always get asked around. Is there a favorite chart type that you kind of get asked for more than anything else? I'm working with a client at the moment, and they're obsessed with bar in bars to show this year performance versus last year. And it works really well for them. But is there anything that kind of have become go-to charting types that you find really tell the story in finance and risk powerful?
I don't think we have a go-to. We've been able to use a lot of different types, and even the mapping, and that's kind of the inspiration I got from you at the conference a couple of years ago. We were able to incorporate some actions, and again with the Oreo reporting, you know, we could actually put a URL action into a map so that people could see where the properties are, and you know, it might not take people exactly to the property, but it does give people an idea of the general area. I think you would use it for retail banks or retail branches. So we've been able to share that idea with other groups across TD as well to just little tips that they can use to incorporate and maybe enhance their reporting. But really, as for types, it's all types that we're using right now. So.
Okay, that's really cool. And I think just to highlight that one of the tips that Peter Jilts came up with was actually within the tooltip, when you hovered over a branch on a map, we'd have every single branch highlighted as a circle. That when you hovered over that plot, that you got the tooltip up and it had a URL that pushed you through to Google Maps. So you could go and look at the outside of a branch, which it kind of sounds like a fun trick. But what really worked for us was actually we had it linked to customer behavior. So when you actually looked at that branch's detail, you could understand the context of that branch by what other shops are around it. And we used to find really strong loan behavior from a certain branch. And we couldn't understand why this was. There wasn't anything that stuck out from the rest of the data. When we looked at the outside of a branch, we realized it was surrounded by charity shops and payday loan companies, which just made a lot more sense. That it was actually from quite a rundown part of the town, and actually the town itself was quite rundown. So there was something around, we needed to have different conversations and teach our staff and help our staff have those different conversations. So it sounds like you've done that with mortgages and understanding what those properties are, which is great use of that as well, and can understand why you don't have a picture of every single house. That would be absolutely mental, but quite cool as well. Very cool, actually, indeed. So when you said about the changing culture and the changing conversations, you've said there's a lot more depth there. The challenge I always used to have previously at the insurer was actually getting anybody interested and excited about using the reports. Is that the thing, that because somebody can interact with something, that they've actually can dig into a little bit more themselves, so they feel more involved in what's going on, or is it something slightly different?
Well, I think there are two different types of people. I think there are those people who are just embracing it, and we have to use Tableau Reader to get our reports out to people, and there are some people who really like being able to dig down and filter and dig into their reports a little bit more. There are other people who still want to get the printout. They just want to have a printed version of the report, and they're not as interested in that interaction. So I think it's a struggle that a lot of people have, is just trying to change that culture of, here's the packet of information, it's static, and this is what you have to look at, versus, here's what you can really do. And I know some other groups, I mentioned Irene, she's really had some great successes, I think, with people digging into the reports and drilling down and just getting excited about what they can see. I think with our particular group, one of my favorite quotes was, when we sent out an interactive dashboard, somebody said to us, it doesn't have 100 columns. Because a lot of our old reports just had columns of data, and now we can present this dashboard of really impactful information in a much easier to digest view. So that's really great for us.
That for me is crazy difference. When I couldn't imagine opening a report and seeing 100 columns and actually trying to interpret it, when I've had people ask me for that. And I'm showing them what else we can do instead, and that's where I start really feeling that value kicking in as well. So no, that's cool that happens on both sides of the Atlantic, because I used to hit my head against a brick wall quite a lot when somebody said, well, I just want the table, I just want the numbers. Okay, you want the numbers, but you can also have this. And it was trying to lure people in with other charts. And for me, that's Tableau dashboard actions, that actually you can get a table to interact with that line chart or interact with a scatter plot, that you can actually really do a lot of work and answer a lot of questions. And the analogy I always use is the MI team that I used to run had 15 guys, and they spent their whole time answering what I class as the second question. The first question is, can we have this report that shows this? The second question was a question off the back of that report. It's BI, it's business intelligence. You're supposed to learn something and ask something else. That's success, better than it not being read at all. So what I used to find was actually you get a lot harder questions back. And that actually made my team's life a lot more interesting, and actually their job's a lot more satisfactory. So if you found that from your Tableau users, that they're getting different challenges from what they've had before, and how have you found that almost cultural shift? Has it been a success? Have people run away scared, or what's gone on in that space?
Yeah, I think it's exciting. It just the way it has changed the dynamic. We're not a production shop just trying to get out these reports monthly, whereas maybe we used to be. We had to meet our deadlines, and of course we still do. But we can spend some more time now. We can save time by moving these reports into Tableau, and then we can have more of an impact too. We can do that additional analysis. A lot of us are in analytical roles, so we want to take that time to analyze the numbers and provide more insight into what we're looking at. It's really helped us be able to shift that way a little bit more, and we're excited because there's a lot more to come. Like I said, we just started a couple of years ago, so we've made great progress. I think we have a lot more we can do too, and it's just been really neat seeing how it's changed across TD too, and how people are implementing it. We have people in wealth management, audit, finance, treasury and balance sheet management, retail, commercial. We've got users across every spectrum, it seems like now, and more people are using it and finding ways to do that and provide more information to management and get more out of those numbers that we had before.
Cool. So you said about the adoption then, because I always found this one quite tough within a bank, that it's very regulatory heavy and very controlled, and an IT team is there to safeguard the bank, and you've got to respect that. But then when you introduce a new tool, that can be quite hard. And it was interesting you were saying about Tableau Reader as well, because we had Server, so that was a little bit easier that it was installed and you didn't have to add anything to an individual's PC. So how have you found that rollout of Desktop and Reader? Have your IT teams helped with that? And if so, how did you guys get them on board, or have they been brought in quite nicely?
Yeah, they have helped with the desktop and reader. I think our challenge has been, we really want to go to server. That's going to make our lives so much easier. We're using desktop 8.1 right now. We can only upgrade a version maybe twice a year. So, there's stuff in 8.2 that we really want to use. And she's at the conference and seeing the stuff that's coming in the next version. We're really excited about that. And it's just, we're on that lag. We can't get there yet. But if we had server, we'd be able to upgrade more frequently and even just seeing the deployment of Reader. When we do have an upgrade, we have to communicate that out to everybody. We have a shift going where we're moving to managed desktops, which will make that easier. But there are still some struggles with that deployment. Irene, again, I'll mention her. She's the one who's really been leading the push to server, and she's been a strong advocate for that. She's been working with IT constantly over the past years, probably now, just trying to help us get there, and that's where we're hoping to go. And actually, the reason I reached out to you too is because one of our IAM partners, Eric Small, was looking for some contacts too. He wanted to hear some experience from other people. And again, another reason why this Tableau community is so great. I kind of out of the blue reached out to you, and you were kind enough to agree to talk to him. So I think that's excellent, and it'll help us hopefully get to where we want to be. So.
And your price was just this Hangout. It's great. I think this is a really interesting point around the rollout and people trying to keep up with versions. That Tableau is great. It rolls out a new dot version maybe every 6 to 18 months as a big version, and kind of the smaller versions every 3 months. And I suppose, Dan, I want to pick your brains on this as well. I kind of see clients, not just within finance, but everybody almost kind of struggling to feel like they're keeping up with this. And I find that kind of tough, that I tell everybody to just relax about it. At Barclays, when we presented in Washington, we're in version 7 still, and we're only about to roll to 8.1 a little while later. Do you see this with clients, Dan, that actually everybody feels that pressure, or are some better than others, do you find?
So my experience actually has been the opposite, where I've come in and they're at least a version behind, and so either not taking advantage of some of the new features that are out there, or there are issues that the client's experiencing that have already been resolved by a feature release or a version release. Fortunately, I mean, for us, the upgrade process has been incredibly easy. Tableau does a really good job if you just want to install a version over a version. It retains a lot of your information. It retains your security and all the workbooks that you built. So it's been a pretty easy process. But I think what, like you said, because they come out with versions so frequently, you do kind of have to stay on top of what's been resolved, and it almost becomes cumbersome it can become cumbersome to constantly go with every minor version. So what I've done at the last couple clients is I will read through the release notes and I'll look for, okay, are there any issues that we're experiencing that this one particularly resolves? If the client's using a live connection, are there any live connection enhancements specific to the environment that we're in? So being able to kind of comb through the release notes has, I think, mitigated when we choose to strategically get on a release. Because like you said, it's potentially once a month, and you don't want both server and then every desktop user upgrading at that frequency. And so at what point is it what point do you kind of get people off that? The other thing too that I've seen is a lot of people will get excited and be on a .0 release of a particular version, and the Tableau's gotten better. I think 8.2 was probably one of the most stable .0 releases, but we still ended up waiting for at least .1 because we had to go live. Otherwise, we would have waited for .2. So it's and that's just software in general. You know, there's always those little tweaks that after a major version comes out. So that's been my experience. But fortunately, again, like I said, the software, with being as easy as it is to kind of roll into a new version, it's not as it doesn't make it a very elaborate process, but the frequency, you find your own kind of pacing of what you're comfortable mitigating with that with. Catherine, it sounds like you have a lot of desktop users, so to ask every desktop user to upgrade once a month might be cumbersome. Whereas, but in a managed desktop environment, that might be easier because then you're just upgrading the managed version, and then everyone just receives that update.
Right.
So, next question. I wanted to kind of talk around what do you find Tableau still doesn't offer you, apart from a lot more controllable upgrades for everything all at once, which that's not Tableau's job, I know, but hey. So if you're kind of sitting there thinking, I wish Tableau just offered me this, what would it be in the finance risk world for you?
Well, not specific to finance risk, but just in general. And it's funny, actually, it's a good segue to talk about this out of the last topic, because it's actually being addressed in the next release. But it's easier data access. It's and I think this is a struggle for many people across any industry, and even within TD, just our various groups. We have these various sources of data, and a lot of times they've got to be cleaned up and scrubbed before we can actually do our analysis on them. So just the fact that I was blown away at the conference when they showed us just connecting to the data. They're going to do that cleanup for you and make that access a lot quicker. It's going to save an enormous amount of time. Something else actually that I think it was 2 years ago at the conference that it almost made me feel better just hearing that other people are struggling so much too with that whole data cleanup and data connection issue. It made me feel not alone. I thought it was just something unique to us, but it is something that everyone's dealing with, it sounds like. And if we can shift that percentage of being able to spend more time on analysis and less time on cleaning up the data to actually do our work, I think that would be great. So improvements are coming. It's just we don't have them yet.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting point around. I'm hearing the thing coming out that in a finance world, it's kind of what I've experienced as well, that you're used to a world where actually most of the job of an analyst was actually production, not actually analyzing, and that kind of seems completely wrong. And if you were to set up the system again, you wouldn't structure it in that way. And I think most industries have a similar BI team that are completely strung out, hitting deadlines, that actually their value that they could offer an organization is to turn around and actually do the analysis and free themselves up for that. And you were saying about the time savings. Is that from a production point of view? Is that from a control point of view? Is that from we're able just to do stuff now that we've never been able to do before, and that stopped other questions? How have you found those time savings, and where have they come from?
Well, it's a combination. Of course, if we had our workbook in Excel where we were having to update the data and update each individual chart or pivot table, it takes time to make those updates. Whereas if we can just connect that data source to Tableau, build it out once, and then make updates as needed if we have to change anything, but just have that refreshed each time we need to look at it. It gives us more time to actually analyze the data and look at it, and that in turn frees up more time too. Just having it more automated, we can actually go in and create new reports and look at new data that we haven't been able to look at previously. I think within the financial services industry, I think you mentioned earlier just the regulatory requirements that we're pressured with. They're constantly changing. We constantly have to provide new data or different data. We have to, specifically in commercial workout, we're looking at problem loans, and the regulators really scrutinize that information and want to make sure that we're on top of it. So having that time freed up to be able to address these regulatory requirements and create new reports and new dashboards to help our teams manage that changing environment, I think is really beneficial.
Cool. Yeah, and it's for me that changed a lot around what I did within my job, what my team did. And just how many more people that we're able to help with. In Barclays, we had a really small team. There was Peter Jokes, Lee Mooney, and myself kind of at the core of this, and we kind of expanded out and spread the knowledge from there. Have you found the adoption is literally people looking over each other's shoulders, or have you got any tips for somebody who's maybe got one or two Tableau desktop licenses in their company, and how do you spread the good word to get a few more people landing the benefits?
Well, we're really lucky actually at TD. We have we utilize connections, and we have an online community. So we have an internal site for blogs, forums. I'm one of the co-owners of that, so that's a big part of my role actually related to Tableau, is just helping to spread the word and increase the collaboration within TD. Actually, as part of that too, I'm really excited. We're going to implement a visualization contest for TD for Tableau users, and we're going to do a donation through that online site, and we have a monthly user group too. Irene's team in New Jersey coordinates a monthly in-person user group meeting. So, the combination of the user group meeting internally and then the online user group site where we can share information and ask questions and share ideas, I think that really helps. If you're a smaller organization, if you only have a few users, definitely the Tableau community. I've mentioned that a few times, but it's just there's so much out there online between blogs and the forums on the Tableau support community, user groups. I've attended the Boston user group meeting a few times, and Maine just had an inaugural meeting recently. I've met so many people and have learned so much just from interaction with other Tableau users. I think that just getting out there and meeting new people is a great tip to improve your own Tableau skills.
Cool. I think that's kind of it from my questions. I think that really describes how you kind of take Tableau from a small team of 12-ish to grow it to almost 200 across multiple countries, which is crazy in the space of a couple of years to get people to kind of incrementally grow that in a controlled way, and everyone's feeling the benefits off the back of that. I think that's a fantastic story and use case for that. Dan, I don't know if you had any other questions?
No, I just again, congratulations on your the ability to get such pervasive Tableau adoption within your organization. I think that's a goal that a lot of organizations try, and I know Carl and we're working with clients that are trying to do the same thing. But it's so great to hear a success story, and I think something that even in the financial industry, which has been mentioned a couple of times, is particularly regulated, and I think people there's a stereotype that's kind of stuck in the mud, or we just do things because that's the way they've always done. You've really kind of helped innovate and help put a new perspective on how do you approach data, how do you approach analysis, and enabling people to better do their jobs. So lastly, just wanted to give Catherine any other final thoughts, anything you want to promote. Are you guys looking to hire anyone? Are you guys looking to is there anything else that you wanted to say to kind of why you have this forum?
Well, we have 26,000 employees, so we're this turnover all the time. So people are always hiring. So definitely check out the TD website if you're interested in joining the company. It's a great culture, a great organization. But just to the Tableau community in general, thank you to everybody. I mean, to you two and to everyone else in the community. When you read people's blogs and search for answers to your questions. You might find a forum. You might not actually get to reach out and say thank you to the person who found the solution or who provided the information. And I've gotten so much online from the Tableau community. So thanks to all of you as well.
Cool. So one last piece of self-promotion. Your Twitter handle was @CatherineRush.
@CatherineRush. Yes, I don't use it often, but hey, maybe if I get more followers or connections, then.
I hope you will do off the back of this, because it sounds like you've got a lot of good knowledge to share. And we've mentioned it multiple times, but that's what the Tableau community is. It was kind of Matt and Emily's kind of pointers around podcasts and Paul Benub's interviews that kind of spurred mine and Dan's thoughts that we actually kind of need something else in this space that just doesn't necessarily talk about the individual, but talks about what we all face at work. Because at the end of the day, us sitting at home with individual Tableau licenses ourselves, we're going to change a lot, but we're not necessarily going to change the corporate world. And there's a lot of pain out there that we're basically trying to look for the right things to help. So that's hopefully what we can help do. If you've got any questions for the next Tableau in the Wild, you want to be interviewed, if you think you have a good story on Tableau in the Wild, let myself or Dan know. And yeah, last thing from me, just a massive thank you to Catherine for being our inaugural first interviewee, doing a sterling job. So thank you very much. And I'm going to go and have a beer now because it's 7 o'clock in the UK, so it's on a Friday night. So I'm definitely allowed to do that. It's been a long week. Dan, I'll hand back to you.
Yeah, it's 10:30 in the morning in California, so I have.
So you're going to have a beer as well.
The rest of my day ahead of me. Yeah. Catherine, again, thank you so much. Thank you everyone who's watching this. This has been Tableau in the Wild with Dan and Carl. Our guest has been Catherine Rush of TD Bank. And if you have any other information, we'll include it in the description below to get a hold of Catherine or get a hold of Carl and myself. If you have any thoughts or comments, please include them below, and we'll try and get to you. And as Carl mentioned, if you would like to be interviewed and like to tell your Tableau story of what Tableau has meant to you and your organization, we love to hear you and love to help share that story. So thank you again, everyone. Have a great day. And this has been Tableau in the Wild. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.